Greetings and welcome back to another episode here on Kapp Tech. Today our topic is 10 recent cases where chief executive officers or CEOs have recently gone murdered or missing. It's amazing how many of these CEOs have gone missing or murdered so recently. It almost makes one wonder if it was done on purpose, as in Ayn Rand's classic book, Atlas Shrugged, where the biggest contributors to society purposefully vanish because they don't like what's being asked of them in return for their accomplishments. But I'm not saying there's a conspiracy theory at foot here. I'm just saying, keep watching and you be the judge. So if you're a CEO or looking to soon become one, we suggest maybe purchasing some life insurance now, because pretty soon you might be considered as high risk as astronauts and premiums might go out of this world. This isn't actually an entirely new phenomenon. After all, Freddie Heineken, chairman and CEO of the brewing powerhouse Heineken International and one of the richest people in the Netherlands, and his driver were kidnapped on November 9, 1983 in Amsterdam. They were released for a ransom about 3 weeks later, and the kidnappers eventually were caught. So with that, let's now jump into our list of 10 recent cases of murdered and missing CEO. Leading off our list is Jack Ma, the CEO of Alibaba, who just resurfaced. The tech billionaire appeared publicly for the first time in months in a video published by Chinese state media. Prior to that, he had not made an appearance or even a post on social media since late October. Alibaba's Hong Kong-listed shares surged 8.5% after the video was published, and Alibaba's New York-listed stock popped by 5.5%. Ma's whereabouts had been the subject of an intense speculation recently, as his group was preparing for the world's largest initial public offering last fall. Ma accused Chinese authorities of stifling innovation and blasted the country's banks for having a pawn shop mentality. Within days, regulators summoned Ma and his team of executives to a meeting and then shelved the IPO altogether. The event where Ma made those remarks was the last time he was seen publicly before very recently. This is a very noticeable absence for a man who typically has no issue with being in the spotlight. Worth noting, however, the rest of the CEOs in our video will not all be so fortunate. Ninth on our top 10 list is Tony Hsieh. In the hours before the fire that killed the CEO of online shoe retailer Zappos, 2 previous fires were extinguished in the shed where he slept, according to an investigator's report. At the time of recording this video, we are still unable to determine the exact cause of the fire or whether it was accidental or intentional. There was evidence that Hsieh was impaired or intoxicated, but it wasn't clear if that even played a role. Local police have said that there was no criminal aspect to the fire itself. Evidence found where the most recent fire started included discarded cigarettes, a marijuana pipe, liquor bottles, and nitrous oxide containers known by the street name Whippet. Hsieh also was using a propane heater that was found to have been partially disassembled when found by investigators. Evidence also showed that Hsieh, as the final fire intensified, locked himself in the shed, which was attached to the side of a friend's home. Hsieh had recently retired from Zappos due to mental health concerns and a, quote, midlife crisis. He was distraught over the death of his dog a few days before the fire. However, Shay was not known to have made any suicidal or homicidal statements. At about 3:20 a.m., Shay's brother Andrew, who had taken over the regular checks of Shay, knocked on the shed door and told Shay it was time to leave for the airport, but Shay asked him to come back in 5 minutes. When his brother and another friend went back to get him at 3:24 a.m., they discovered the fire and tried frantically to rescue him. They smashed a window and tried to put out the fire with an extinguisher, but were overcome by smoke and ashes. The cause of the fire will likely remain undetermined unless new evidence emerges, officials said recently. Next on our list is Tushar Atrey, who was the CEO of a Santa Cruz digital marketing firm called Atrey Net Incorporated. Apologies on what I'm sure is a mispronunciation. He was also the owner of Interstitial Systems, a Santa Cruz-based licensed cannabis manufacturer. The kidnapping and murder of this tech and devil's lettuce entrepreneur shocked the city of Santa Cruz in 2019, but it wasn't until 2020 that 4 defendants, including 2 former co-workers, were arrested and held to answer for their involvement. Atrey, 50, was kidnapped from his Pleasure Point home on October 1st at 3 a.m. In the months that followed, a community-led reward of $25,000 was issued, and that was later raised to $150,000 and then ultimately $200,000, the largest amount ever offered in the history of the Santa Cruz Sheriff for any information leading to the arrest of those involved in the killing. During an update in January of this year, 2021, Santa Cruz Sheriff Jim Hart released video surveillance footage of a bicyclist and later 3 men walking near Atrey's Pleasure Point Drive home, and said that his investigators had issued more than 30 search warrants in connection to the case. Then in May, Hart announced the arrest of 4 men, none of the men being held on suspicion of felony murder, robbery, and kidnapping, have had criminal histories or past law enforcement contacts, according to the authorities. The sheriff's office believes the motive for the case was a planned robbery. Officials have declined to reveal who they believed fired the shot that killed Atrey. The 4 men have all pleaded not guilty and are expected to return to court in January. Stranger still is the case of Fareem Salah, who was CEO of GoKada, an on-demand motorbike hailing service headquartered in Nigeria, who was found dismembered in his luxury apartment, and he left behind quite a fortune. Salah was dubbed the Elon Musk of the developing world before the 33-year-old was found dead in his Manhattan, New York apartment in July 2020. His executive assistant, Tyrese Haspel, who lives in Brooklyn, was later arrested for being charged with the murder. Court documents are now said to have revealed that the slain CEO and investor was worth quite a huge sum. Haspel is accused of using a taser on Salah and then fatally stabbing him. It had been previously reported that he was suspected of allegedly embezzling tens of thousands of dollars from Salah. Salah's torso was found near several large plastic bags that contained his head and limbs that had been severed off with an electric saw. According to reports at the time, the power saw was still plugged in when the body was found. Haspel reportedly pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder in October, and this case is still pending. Next, please allow me to tell you about the very strange case of Erin Valenti, the CEO of Salt Lake City-based app development company Tinker Ventures. Valenti was known to be a vibrant young startup founder who went on a work trip to Silicon Valley. Then, 1 week later, she was found dead in the backseat of her car. What happened remains a mystery to this day. Dateline, October 2019. On the night of her own wedding anniversary, Erin's mother, Agnes Valenti, received a call from their daughter, Erin, who was actually calling from 2,900 miles away in beautiful Palo Alto, California, where she had just left a friend and located her rental car after some initial difficulties finding it. The 33-year-old entrepreneur then began the short drive to San Jose International Airport. She talked to her mother quickly and erratically. Some of her very last words were, "It's all a game. It's a thought experiment. We're in the Matrix," she said at one point, "and I'm going to miss my flight." And 5 days later, Valenti was found dead in the backseat of her rental car on a residential street in San Jose, and according to the family, there were no clear signs of any physical harm. The mystery of how a tech founder, how a tech CEO went missing and died in Silicon Valley leaves her family and friends and a group of entrepreneurs in Utah's rising tech hub stunned. The easy explanation would be suicide, that her story was among the many stories about depression exacerbated by the stress of starting a company and trying to change the world. However, her family does not believe that she killed herself. That just wasn't who she was, they said. After all, her nickname was Armageddon Erin because of her boisterous energy. Wait, this gets to be much weirder still. Upon researching her firm, Tinker Ventures, she left a link on her Tinker Ventures site to the following cited from Reardon Control Lab. Quote, "The future of brain-machine interfaces is non-invasive instead of surgical implant. Control Labs uses state-of-the-art detection and machine learning to read neurons from outside the body. The first step will be technology precisely picking up the signals from inside your body to control devices outside of it with little more than natural gesture. The next step, and we are already closer than most people realize, will be reading the intention directly from your brain." This, of course, raises suspicion and conspiracy theories about if she was killed for, or even perhaps by, what she knew. Next, we have the case of Robert Garecki, CEO of Retro Environmental, whose body was found inside Retro Environmental in Eldersburg in May 2019. The family put up billboards throughout the region asking for information about the case. The state's attorney's office has now stated Michael Anthony Brown was arrested for the killing. Michael Anthony Brown was Robert Garecki's son-in-law and also his business partner. He was arrested for the crime in October 2020. Dangerous to be a CEO, folks. Next on our list is a case from Malaysia. Cradle Fund Chief Executive Officer Nasrin Hassan. Hassan died in a very controversial fire in an upper bedroom in his home on the eve of the final day of Ramadan on June 14th, 2018. He was 45 years old. Initially, the post-mortem report claimed that the cause of death was shrapnel from a mobile phone explosion. On 6/25, though, a forensic report stated the discovery of gasoline stains on his body, bed, and mobile phone, which led to the reclassification of the case as murder. Legal proceedings are still ongoing. Next up on the docket is Lynn Chi, billionaire producer for Netflix and the mogul who brought us the Game of Thrones video game. He was poisoned on December 16th, 2020, and died on Christmas Day in a plot twist that may seem taken from the Game of Thrones itself. He was reportedly poisoned by a co-worker in an alleged murder plot. Lynn was the chairman and CEO of Yuzu Group, the game developer best known for the Game of Thrones Winter is Coming video game. Prior to his poisoning, there were rumors of a dispute between Yuzu's executives. Zhu Yao, a senior exec in the film and television division of Yuzu, was recently arrested and charged with Lynn's murder. Yao has his Juris Doctorate degree from the University of Michigan Law School and joined Yuzu in 2017. Yao allegedly poisoned Lynn with a cup of tea. Shanghai police received a call from the hospital that Lynn was taken to on December 17th, informing them about the poisoning. Lynn was at first stable and had taken himself to the hospital when he started feeling sick. He was only 39 years young. Now, before we get into our last two on the list, I wanted to give a quick disclaimer because one of these two is only a CEO in name only, and you're about to see what I mean. And the other was actually one rung below CEO and was an SVP, but I thought his story was interesting enough that we'd include it anyway. Next is the very recent case from 2021 of Baby CEO, a controversial Memphis rapper. One source has now confirmed that Jonathan Brown, also known professionally as, you guessed it, Baby CEO, died in a shooting last Tuesday night. Memphis police responded, and Brown was pronounced dead at the scene. As of present, police have not yet publicly identified the victim or released any details about what happened. Rumors have also been swirling about the death being a possible overdose, and yet other rumors say neither of these theories holds true. Brown first made headlines in 2015 when he was only 14 years old, when a video featuring him rapping about guns and drugs made the rounds on social media. Our last case, that of our only non-CEO listed, is yet another very recent story. Jake Sofolia, 49, of Elmhurst, was last seen in person on August 6, 2020. He was seen on gas station footage taken the next day and reported missing August 8. His car was found at Waterfall Glen Forest Preserve in Lamont, and searches have been conducted at the park, apparently not yet yielding any clues. Elmhurst police allegedly confirmed that they were investigating Sofolia when he went missing. They have not yet provided the nature of this investigation. Elmhurst police have not yet issued a news release or a photo of Sofolia. After his disappearance, a source named The Patch obtained the Elmhurst police report on the missing person case, and according to these documents, Sofolia was drinking excessively and had broken up with his girlfriend in the days leading up to his disappearance. He also was said to have fantasized about going off the grid. 3 Facebook pages dedicated to finding him remain, but they have become far quieter as the search has grown cold. With more than 2,000 members, the most active page, entitled The Disappearance of Jake Sofolia, has seen only about a half dozen posts since late November. In 2018, Sofolia replaced David Hilfman in the senior vice president's position. Information about Sofolia, senior vice president of worldwide sales, has been removed from the section of United Airlines website about the company's leadership. It is unclear when it was taken down. We sincerely hope that you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and of course subscribe, and check out the rest of our content here on Kapp Tech. Thank you so much for watching Kapp Tech. I want to call your attention to our tip jar.